Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MTS here, back here with another video. Hope everyone's well. Um, Doing better than me, I guess, but I'm having a few problems with tech. Facebook have suspended my account or whatever, deleted my account and said something about you've got 180 days to appeal. But they haven't said where I can appeal. I've appealed quite a few times and they've deleted my account temporarily or whatever, about 3 or 4 times, and said something about trying to get people's PIN number or something weird like that, and so it's a bit of a nightmare. So I finally got my YouTube channel back, and now I've lost my Facebook, so I seem to have a problem with either one or the other. So that's been a bit bad. And then I was going to go watch a Celtic game, but then I wasn't sure if the pub had the game on or not. And then because I'm a bit stressed about my channel and whatever, I decided not to go, and I'm a bit lazy to go anyway for that long walk. Although I love walking, but just time commitments as well. But yeah, so not doing too well, to be honest with you. But also, last time I checked, I was just thinking it was 1-1 at half time, and I checked the score, and we conceded 2 quick goals. So Hearts are beating us. I want Celtic to break Hearts, but it's looking like it could be Hearts winning the league this season, which I suppose would be good for a neutral. But I really want Celtic to win, which would be a part of reparations, which I'm hoping to talk about, which bring me to my topic. So today I want to talk about reparations, a controversial topic, but I try not to be too shy to talk about controversial topics, as you probably know if you've seen my other videos. But yeah, I want to talk about the pros and cons of such, and maybe read and hear from people's arguments against such, which is fair enough. As ever, I'm always happy to read and hear from contrarian viewpoints, not be an echo chamber or whatever. But yeah, it could be a bad day. I was thinking the worst case scenario would be Hearts beating us and then Rangers winning, especially if we fall down the league. And they're going to be 8 points ahead of us, I think, Hearts today, if they beat us, unless we can catch up and get up button gear. So I have not managed to watch the game, but we've not been playing too good. I mean, we won in Europe in midweek, but I'd rather just rest players in Europe and just focus on the league, getting back this league and getting back hopefully a treble. But at the moment, it's looking like we might not even win 1 trophy, let alone 3. So it's it's going downhill, and I fear Danny Röhl, or whatever his name is, the Rangers manager, it might take a while, but he might get them kicked into gear. So a victory for Celtic is a victory against imperialism in my view, but I'm hoping to come to that. But yeah, this is a topic I want to cover. I'm a bit off track with the intro, but I'm hoping to get my Facebook channel again, because I have this strange thing I've mentioned before where, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, I know I have on Facebook, I'm sure I have it as well, but where I get really frustrated if I create something and then it goes away. I like to keep things as on order. I like to keep my paperwork and things like that, and I'd love to get back stuff I've made and whatever. But anyway, here goes. So one other thing. I'll probably say it's in point number 1. So these are points, so it's number 1 to 10 as per usual in these videos. I hope I remember to put the right title in part 1. I'm pretty sure I did, but anyway. So number 1, Lenny Henry. I was going to say as an intro, black British comedian. I know people say he's not very funny comedian, but black British comedian. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of him by any stretch, but yeah, black British comedian of Caribbean descent, Lenny Henry, incited controversy by saying that the black community should get 18 trillion or something. I don't know where they came up with that figure from. People said Britain would be bankrupt if they gave that money away, and I suppose it would be a scary precedent for Britain, because I guess if other nations start, if other groups like India and nations generally ask for their reparations back, it would be very difficult for Britain to pay that back. So it shows. I think any money that was given in aid money could be taken off that as well, for instance. But so they balance themselves out. So yeah, let's say Britain owed India, like say 3 trillion, and they gave overall, they could say, or over time, let's say they gave $1 billion in aid money. I still think they should pay 2.9 trillion or whatever it would be, hypothetically, for instance. But yeah, I'm also happy to read and hear from contrarian points of view. Like some people might argue how can it be paid or whatever, or if it's a fair amount, or people who just disagree for whatever reason. Maybe I won't preempt too much about what they'll say. It'd be interesting to read from and hear from their argument. Well, then, like, no. But yeah, how can it be enforced, I guess, but the international community could do so. But and I think things like I fought for in the past, a few things I might cover that a bit later, but yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of arguments against such. I'm a bit wary about making content now, because I touch wood, I just hope well, preferably both Facebook and YouTube will keep my content. But I'm going to move on to, so the worst case scenarios in terms of football. Worst case scenarios: Celtic losing, especially if Rangers win today, heaven forbid, and also. I'd rather just rest players in Europe and not take Europe too seriously and focus more on the domestic game. Sorry for anyone who's not into footy. I'm going a bit off track again, but the Celtic fans out there, I'd love to do videos on Celtic as well, but I thought I'd cover this now, and maybe on the 26th of November I might cover more on Celtic or something like that, see how it goes, or even Boxing Day or whatever. So it would be or January. Anyway, but moving on. Do try and keep these videos short and sweet, but I struggle to get to the point. And I went through football and I went through the issues I'm facing with tech, not being my friend at the moment, tech. But yeah, I hope Celtic can make a miraculous comeback in the second half. Just hope we haven't conceded anymore by the time I check. But obviously, I'm making this video, so I'm not able to check. But I hope that Celtic can score like 3 or 4 goals on the second half. I really wish we could win, or at least get a draw today. Could be an interesting season in Scotland. It could be 2 old firm teams falling away and Hearts winning. Anyway. Number 2, but yeah, I'd love to know the pros and cons of such, the arguments against and for reparations as well, and maybe people could talk about how they could work if they are done. I mean, there's a precedent for such, like the Jewish people with the Holocaust, for instance, paid by Germany. Japanese Americans, prisoners of war, got reparations. Even some Native American groups have been offered reparations, and probably other groups as well. A Native American group was offered over $1 billion in reparations for a small area, which that number surprised me. But nowadays, as they're printing so much money, dealing in figures of trillions, I don't know where the figure 18 trillion came from. I can't remember how accurate it was. But I'd love for the black community, let's say, for instance, to get. And I know this month I'm trying to focus on 2 groups, dyslexics and the black community. Maybe even dyslexics could get reparations for how we've been treated by the academic system and by society and that kind of thing, which I talked about before, by having a system that doesn't cater towards our thinking, arguably. But yeah, I think there has been a precedent for it, and that could be same for every other group, nations and whatnot, and groups that could get reparations. And there was a point I was going to mention, but I completely forgot it. And I think it'd be cool if such debates were held across African nations, for instance, because or even and Caribbean nations, because or even, I know I'm focusing more on the black community because it's Black History Month, but even in Asia, Latin America, Asia, and well, maybe not Latin America, but Asia, Australasia for the Aboriginal community and whatnot, they could host those events like Oxford Union does and the IQ Squared. But it's really bugging me that I forgot this point I was going to mention. But I know the worst case scenario I talked about, but for also in terms of not getting those reparations or not getting justice, which I'd love to see. So today I'll probably, because I forgot to say as well, the reason why I'm covering this today is because it's the 26th, and I think of the number 26 as reparations. So I often think of a certain theme on a certain date or dates, like the 23rd. I was thinking of like the case for investing in dyslexic people, integral black people, the dyslexic, integral black community, respectively, for Black History Month. But yeah, moving on, and because I want to do Dyslexia December as well, or maybe a thing with my alliteration, so Dyslexia December, I want to focus more on the black community more this month, and dyslexics in December. Probably pretty much solely dyslexia in December. Dyslexia and disability generally, and dyscalculia, dyspraxia, and whatnot. But moving on, number 3, when I was thinking of this list, I was struggling to think what to cover for point number 1 and 2. But I thought 3, famous, it could be famous last words, as they say, but I'm probably wearing the wrong cap as well. But given Italy colonizers as well. But I say it's my one concession for Italy. I only support them in and struggle for the football because I supported them when I was younger, and I think I love Italian, so I've sort of stuck by them in spite of the fact that they are colonizers, not because of it. But yeah, I was thinking like there could be a form of reparations, for instance, could be, say for instance, dyslexic, because of the way we were taught in the academic system, which doesn't suit us. I'd love for dyslexics to be tax exempt. That's one of my dreams, to pay 0 taxes. Just like I said on Facebook, and I've said in the past, I'm sure on these videos on YouTube as well. I said I'd love to record in as many places as possible, so if things like my content gets taken away from one channel, at least I'll have it somewhere else. Unfortunately, a lot of things I post and all that would be deleted, but I'd love to keep those if I can, but probably so much of it is so cringeworthy I probably shouldn't. But I shouldn't want that perhaps. But sorry, trying to get to the point again. But yeah, tax exemptions for the black community. I'd love for the black community to have to be able to pay zero tax, at least in terms of income tax in Britain and around the world, in Western nations perhaps, like in America, Australasia and whatnot, and Europe and whatnot, to be tax exempt as a form of reparations. Another thing, it could be tax incentives for companies like Microsoft, IBM, Oracle, BT, BA, Virgin Enterprise, Schwab Corp, BlackRock even, or any other companies to be given tax cuts for investing into either the dyslexic, Android, or black community in Britain or anywhere in the world, I guess, supporting dyslexic, Android, or black people to start their own businesses and supporting success for dyslexic, Android, or black people to achieve our/their ambitions and goals and achieve their potential, reach their potential, and that kind of thing. So I hope Celtic have a miracle on this second half and get loads of goals. I hope one of our players gets a hat-trick or something like that. It's really frustrating, like, as they could fall apart this season. It looks like it. So I don't know how Celtic can get back into this. I hope the European games we do. Sorry, tracking it. But yeah, but I often say as well, freedom of speech and freedom of expression. So if people disagree with me, please feel free to disagree. Going back to the point of the video, these videos. I'm sure there was something else I was going to say for point number 3, and I'll be kicking myself later if I forgot. But yeah, I was thinking I'd pay the lowest amount of taxes possible. I'd love for dyslexics and black people to pay zero taxes, and then possibly use that money to invest in each other and network together and that kind of thing, respectively, so dyslexic and black people as well. And again, tax incentives and that kind of thing, and I suppose at least having that debate, maybe Jamaica and West Indian nations generally, the Caribbean and whatnot, and African nations hosting those debates, and even them being hosted in Australia, but with some benefit to the Aboriginals and Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders and Maoris and whatnot. Yeah, I'm sure there's something else to say. It's really annoying. I can't quite remember it. But yeah, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, discussing, debating. But I think it would be fair. Like I was thinking, if IQ Squared and the Oxford Union debates host those events, it would be people travelling to Britain, and I think the whole point of reparations would be to support like Caribbean and sort of African tourism and things like that to benefit their economy. Not the whole point, but certainly not the point. But moving on to number 4. Point number 4. I wish I wouldn't forget things, and I wish I'd be able to keep my stuff, as I say. That's my hoarding problems, but want to hoard ideas and papers and all sorts of things, but or whatever. But yeah, I was thinking, let's say if Britain says we can't pay this money back because we'd have to cut back on our healthcare, education, teaching, training, jobs, or whatever, and that kind of thing. I think the international community could say fair enough, as long as you're going to spend that on the NHS, or and they could do that to train more black doctors and nurses, for instance, or whatever. Maybe dyslexic nurses and doctors perhaps as well to an extent. Although I suppose people shouldn't get the job based on merit or whatever. I'm not saying they should have DEI program, but they could train people and help with their ambitions and funding and that kind of thing. But if they said like we need that money for our military and our weapons trade, I think the international community should say, tough, your military and weapons trade were the ones that took over those nations. And on that note, I'd love for dyslexic and black people to boycott the military. A very controversial view, I think, of militarism as like stealing from other nations. Controversial one, please forgive me. Don't shoot the messenger if you would not, or whatever. But I think like dyslexics being over involved in crime, I think it would be good if we didn't join militaries, which to me it's not a legal form of crime. If that's the thing, I think it should be illegal to invade other nations. So yeah, if we went from an overrepresentation of crime to not even joining militaries or doing anything like being involved in gangs, terrorism, or anything that's like violent unless in self-defense, and I wish we wouldn't break the law, but we should challenge any sort of forced conscription or whatever. So I wish to God that next week, that dyslexic and next week, will not join the military. Same for POC, including black people. And I think instead black people should, and other POC should support their own people so they could use that money to support their ancestral homelands and to support each other. There's lots of reasons why I think black people shouldn't join the military as well, like given the history, how it invaded their nations, it invaded their ancestry, and all the bad things it did to them, and the things it does now to other nations. Just like a guy called Corey Holcomb, if I pronounce his name right, who's an African American guy, was saying black people shouldn't join the military. The military is not a place for black people. And he said they're doing the same effed up stuff to others that we do to other. They did to us, and that kind of thing. So I wish to God black people wouldn't join the military or POC generally, just like dyslexic and other neurodiverse people. I think instead it would be good if we did more ethical things and help people and that kind of thing. And that's my controversial view. But again, using freedom of speech and freedom of expression, it's amazing how many people say I support freedom of speech or freedom of expression, but when it goes against them, freedom of speech / freedom of expression, they go mad. Like if you say anything about the military or the royal family or things like that. But before I call it, of course, too much controversy, I'm going to move on to number 5. Again, I think it'd be cool if dyslexics network with each other. And I think it's pointless in terms of the black community asking for reparations if they're not going to support each other. And they should use that money, like if they get any tax savings or any savings generally, if they teach each other about how to save money and get funding to support their own businesses and whatever, I think they should network together and uplift each other and support each other and support black unity and that kind of thing. Similar with dyslexics, I'll say. Number 6, again, I support Italy in and struggle for the football, in spite of the fact that we're colonizers. It's my one concession for supporting Italy. Just like this guy I mentioned a while back, but this white guy was said, I think it was white or Jewish guy, whatever, he was saying he buys a bicycle, which he bought a bicycle from Britain, and he goes, it's my one concession to Britain. It's the only thing I buy from Britain. And they said, why? How come that is? He mentioned that, but how come that is? And he says he doesn't like their policy in Northern Ireland, as he put it. So I'm like that with the Italian football. Normally, I support anti-imperialism in countries that are colonized. But when it comes to football, I support like the Mediterranean nations like Italy, Spain, France, and places like that, and especially Italy. In particular, with Spain, it's a bit of a dilemma, especially at club team level, because it's about, along with English football, Italy's biggest competition. But I'd love for us to learn, Italian football, to learn from Spain and England and whatnot about marketing and how to improve and youth development and that kind of thing. And I wish Italian football would play that silky way that Spain plays. But I know I'm going off track again. But yeah, normally I support what I call the 6. So Indigenous people, or POC, people of colour from Australasia, Africa, the Americas, Asia, I suppose Ireland, and also Latin American countries more generally as well. So yeah, I call them the 6. In the case of the first 4, like POC generally, but the other 2 not so much. But anyway, well, that makes sense. Number 7, I think a victory for Celtic is a victory against imperialism, and I dream and hope that Celtic finally start winning again. I'd love for Celtic to win as many trophies as possible, and I have no sympathy for Rangers like if they lose all their games and whatever. If I'm honest, as they support like they sing like Royal Britannia and they support the monarchy and the military royal family and all that kind of, which is their choice, but it's not something I'm into. So I hope Celtic does really well. The US Celtic. I was thinking when I looked at the fixtures, all the teams on the right of the list on Google, like Celtic, Hibs, I don't remember who else. I was thinking I hope that all those teams on the right win and all the teams on the left lose. But and then I saw the fixtures for next week or whenever it was, a couple of weeks or whatever, and I thought that time I want all the teams on the left, like Celtic and Hibs or whatever, to win. Anyway, I know, nice life story. Number 8, I think it would be cool if POC work together, and I think it'd be cool if, one thing I was thinking about going back, dyslexia as well, dyslexia West Month, is like if dyslexics learn about what we have in common with the black community and vice versa, and what the similarities and differences, like how we're discriminated against, like dyslexics are discriminated against because we think differently, learn differently, and whatever, learn and think differently, and so we're not suited to the academic system. But generally speaking, and black people are discriminated against because their physical appearance and differences or whatever. But yeah, so we have a lot in common in terms of like struggles to get jobs and careers and whatever. But we also have success stories on both sides, so I'm trying to think of a positive as well. So yeah, I suppose there's positives and negatives, and I'd love to know. I'd say the pros and cons and pros of reparations and whatever, for and against and for and whatnot. And I think it would be cool if black people said positive things about each other, like African countries said a lot of positive things about each other. Number 9, another thing is like I talk about like the projects I talk about in my videos, like trying to support black poets, artists, writers, and projects like entrepreneurs, and celebrating success stories from the black community. I suppose in my own way of sort of replicating them, but perhaps they should replicate themselves in a way in terms of like supporting each other, saying positive things about each other, and supporting projects from Africa and each other, and networking together around the world, teaching each other what they know and being proud of each other's successes, not jealous of each other. And number 10, supporting young black people as well, young dyslexic young black people even, or even POC generally, and learning disabled people generally. And on that hopefully positive note, sorry to waffle though, but I'm out and peace and love. Going to go for a walk.